Hello, everyone. I am so excited to have you to join us here today in the wonderful Emerald City of Dublin, Georgia. I'm Kendrick Mack, the owner of Serenity Funeral Home, located right here in Dublin, Georgia. And there are some of you all today wondering, what does it take to be a funeral director? Do me a favor, come on and join me inside. Hey, thanks for joining me. We're right here in my chapel of the Serenity Funeral Home. Oftentimes I'm asked the question, what brought me into this industry? What made me want to become a funeral director? What inspired me to become a funeral director? Listen, I am the first certified weirdo in my family to choose mortuary science as a career. You know, when I was 6 years old, that's when I had my very first encounter, I believe, with death. As I was there, my father and I, we went to one of the local funeral homes to visit one of my father's relatives, Mr. Tick. I shall never forget, as we were there, I was kind of afraid, being at 6 years old. And as I was there, I went to view the remains of Mr. Tick and didn't want to get close to the casket. As I stood there, I was like, no, Dad, I'm not going to get close to him. I don't want to touch him. I was horrified. I was terrified. I was just afraid. And as I was there, my father came up to me as I got ready to leave. He said, you want to touch him? I said, yeah, Dad, I want to touch him. That very day, I went up to the coffin and I touched Mr. Tick. And that day, it felt as if the fear of death left my body. After the funeral, I asked the owner of the funeral home, I said, hey, I would like to work with you all. And lo and behold, later on, as I got older, I probably was 12 or 13 at that time, but I knew that's where my calling was. And so as I was there, she shared with me, when you get older, just come by and talk to me. And I was blessed, and she gave me my first opportunity in the funeral service industry. There are a lot of misconceptions about funeral directors. However, some people think that funeral directors are making all the money or rolling in the dough. But however, me being in the public's eye, I am a public servant. I've always felt complete in being a servant, helping people through their grief. But believe me, the pay was not my reason for staying. Something we often don't talk about or discuss, believe it or not, is that minority firms or minority funeral homes oftentimes pay less. But there are a lot of misconceptions, and so I chose this path that enabled me to be able to support people following their worst experience in their life. But I do my best to try to use my experience and my education to create a safe environment where families feel comfortable interacting with death, one that hopefully prompts open and healthy grief practices. So here we are. My goal is to help families process what has happened, what is happening, and how their world will be different now, regardless of what form of services they may choose. A lot of people think that this industry or this field of service is just dedicated to men. But however, women are slowly coming into this career path. So if you're a young lady and you decide that one day you may want to become a funeral director, just know that the change is slow, but it is steady. Young people, you may be interested in this as a career or a profession, but I want you to note that death does not take a break. Because death doesn't take a break, neither do I. So I'm always working. So the typical day of a funeral director is totally wild. Some days it is easy, but then there are many days that I have families after families coming back in just to take care of arranging services for their loved one, those that have passed on. And so when you look at it, you can work during holidays, work overtime, long hours, and there are moments that I'm able to commit to a lighter schedule. And so I just want to share with you all today that a normal day may be consisting of being a funeral director out on services, then into the cemetery, doing work in the cemetery, going back to the office, preparing someone's remains. So that's the typical day for a funeral director. So if this is a career that you may choose, just know that death doesn't take a break, and neither do we.